Hi everyone, welcome to this ProcessMaker 3 training session, which is part of the beginners training series powered by Diamond. I am your host and trainer, Afe Araram. For our 12th session, we shall continue our work on our demo project, but this time around, our focus will be on the third task of the Cash Advance Requisition leg of our process. At the end of this session, you should be familiar with forward and backward links on Dynaforms, as well as how to take advantage of the SweetAlert JavaScript library. Let's begin. In our previous session, we worked on the second task of our process, which is the supervisor approval task. We built the Dynaform for the task and added the relevant triggers and also wrote some JavaScript logic, added the JavaScript logic to our forms. Now, for this session, we shall concentrate on the third task, which is the Finance Disbursement task. But before we do that, I mentioned in our previous session that we shall be making use of another external JS library, which is the SweetAlert library. Okay, so before we do all of that, let's go to the first task and open the form. So when we open the form, let's go to the section where we have we did not create any event handler here for our submit button. So in line with what we've done for, or what we did for the supervisor approval task, I'm going to add, let's quickly add some logic, JS logic for or event handler for our submit button. So I'm going to copy this so that I can use it as a section. Let's call this submit button. So of course, we are targeting the submit button and using jQuery. That is going to be, we use submit underscore button for the ID of the button. Okay, and we do a dot called the find method. And what are we finding? We are looking for button elements, and then an on click an event handler. So that's click, and then we call an anonymous function. Okay, so let's see. I hope we've not missed anything. So we have the submit button and then the find. Yeah, we missed something. Undo. We missed the closing parentheses on our button. Okay, so everything is fine now. So we'll then do an e.prevent default. So in other words, we do not want the form to just submit immediately the button is clicked. So we want to prevent the default behavior of a submit button. So in our previous lesson, we had to create the supervisor approval form. We created the necessary triggers. We added JavaScript logic to our form, and then we tested what we had done. And before we continue in this session to work on the form and triggers and JavaScript logic for finance, the third task, which is the finance disbursement task. There are a couple of things or adjustments I would want us to make on our first task and our second task. The first one would be to remove forward and backward links, and then we would adjust the JavaScript logic we have around our submit buttons and make use of an external JS library called SweetAlert. You may already be familiar with that. And then after that, we will move straight towards working or into working on the third task. Okay, so let's raise a case. Let's log in at anu.belo and raise a case on, let's raise a case on the process. So we have this employee initiates. So remember that we have this, and when we looking at this screen, you can see that there's this link called next step, and there's this one too. If we are taking a step forward, this would show as previous step. So let's see how that looks like. So let's put in here 45,321.35. Okay. And let's, as usual, since we are testing, type testing here. Now, remember this, we are seeing next step at the top of the form. If we scroll down, add a comment, and we click on submit, we see previous step, correct? So this will normally show, the previous step would normally show. But if it's a task where you have two Dynaforms, that the user will move from one form to the other, when you are on the second Dynaform, you would see that there is a this previous link will be enabled, as well as the next step link. So previous step and next step. So these two links, they can influence the user experience on your form. So for instance, if a user were to click on this, then it will just submit. And sometimes it's necessary that you do not allow such links to show, and that the user only moves forward via the buttons, the submit buttons that you have provided. So we need to ensure that these display links, the Dynaform backward and Dynaform forward links, are disabled on the form. Okay, now if we were to inspect that element, inspect the elements, let's click on this. What do we see? We see DNY underscore forward, right? And then this other one is DNY underscore backward. Those are the IDs for the two elements on the screen. Okay, so what do? We go to our initiation form. We go to our initiation form, go to the JavaScript section, and what do we add? We add a line of code for hide previous and forward links. Okay, so we use jQuery to target them, and we are calling the hide function or hide method on it. And when we do that targeting, we are targeting the ID DNY underscore backward. And we repeat the same thing, just copy this for the forward ID, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Remove that and put forward here. Okay. So we hide and we save. Sorry, we close and save. And if we were to reload frame here, sure we are targeting it correctly. let's check. Let's check. We must have made a mistake somewhere. We must have made a mistake somewhere. So we have dny backward dot hide and dny forward. So we spelled forward wrongly dot hide. So let's save that. Save the form and reload frame here. So watch, we can still see next step, but when we reload frame, that is gone. So the user can no longer click on it to move forward step by step at the task or on the task. So that is done. So what we've done here, this line of these lines of code that we added here, we'll also need to copy it later and add on our second form. But first, let us change the behavior of the submit button. Let's change the behavior of the submit button. Let's save. Remember, for our second form, we had created, use some JavaScript logic. If we go to the approval supervisor form and go to the JavaScript for that, and we go down, let's copy this. Let's copy this. And I think we should copy from the form submits down to this button, and then we'll make the necessary changes. So let's copy that, save, and we can go back to our initiation form. And what we do here now is to paste. Okay, so this is the submit button. So of course, the ID here is going to change to submit underscore BTN. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are preventing the default behavior of a submit button so that we can call the form submission. And what we want to pass in here is submit. Okay, and right here, remember we are using a confirm dialog box to interact with the user. And so we want to ask the user, are you sure you want to submit? Are you sure you want to submit? Is what we want to pass there. And we can add, are you sure you want to submit this form? Something like that. Remember now that this is not a situation for approve and reject. So we don't need this else if portion of the code. All we now need to put here, we don't even need this if aspect. So all we need is the form submits line. So let's remove all of that. So just this. Now, when we save this, save the form, and come back to where we are doing our testing, and we reload frame. When we click on submit now, we'll get this confirm dialog asking us, are you sure you want to submit this form? Okay. Now, if we click on cancel, nothing happens. And another way to ensure that our code is well written is such that after the if for the confirm, we should put an else and return false. This is necessary so that our code or our form behaves appropriately. So if the person clicks cancel, we expect that if the confirm does not return true, then the else portion of the code will run. And nothing just happens because the user is brought back to the form. Okay, so let's save this again and then reload frame. And so we have this. So if we click on OK, we move forward. Let's go backward. If we click on cancel, we remain on the form. But we could enhance the process design or the form design by making use of what is known as the SweetAlert JavaScript library. Okay. And so remember that the other time, one of our previous lessons, when we needed to add a JavaScript library to our ProcessMaker instance, we had to locate the workflow folder. Now, since our test instance that we're using for this session is a Bitnami installation of ProcessMaker, all we need to do is to go to this directory, follow this path. But if you're using a Windows installation or a Linux installation, then you will find the workflow folder in this directory, or if you follow this path, okay? So quickly, let's go there. We have, let me close this so that I can open it again. So if I go to desktop and open our training resources and go to libraries, I have the SweetAlert CSS. I also have the SweetAlert JavaScript. So what I need is the SweetAlert JavaScript and the SweetAlert CSS. So what do I do? I would open another Explorer window, go to my C drive, look for Bitnami, open ProcessMaker, go to apps, open ProcessMaker, open HTDocs, go to workflow. So in workflow, you just need to locate the public underscore HTML. We'll go to the JS folder that we previously created, and we copy this library. Oh, it's even already there. We've already copied it before, okay? So the next thing we'll do, let's go to CSS, and we see that the CSS, the SweetAlert CSS file is already there. So that means, well, at least we are good to go. We are good to go. So remember that when we added the libraries the other time, let's save this for, we added it in one of our subforms. And the result of that is in whatever parent form we include that subform, the libraries follow are imported into, so to speak, they're imported or included in the UI of the, or in the contents of the Dynaform, the parent Dynaform. So we added that then in our sign-off approval. So let's go there and check here. So if we copy what is here, let's cut it out and see it here. Okay, so this is what it was before. If we paste, this is what we had before. So all we now need to do is to add another, so we come in between the last JS library and our CSS library. We locate inside public underscore HTML the Java JS library, then slash, then what do we put? SweetAlert.js, which is the name, and then comma to separate it from the CSS. So the CSS library. So copy this now. Let's copy, and then we'll come back here and we'll paste. And then we save, and we are good to go. So let's go back to our initiation form. To go back to our initiation form, we can then go to our JavaScript and use our SweetAlert. And where we'll pull that code is in our form submission function. So let's comment out the confirm dialog box that we used before. And then we will then call the swal function. When we call swal, there are a couple of parameters that we can set as an array. These are how we start that. So the title of the alert we want to call that, we will need to set the title. We'll need to set the text, the message that will be on the alert box. We need to set the type. The type in this case will be, no, we'll define that later. And then we also set allow escape key. So meaning if the user presses the escape key, what should happen? So we set this to true. Then confirm button color. So for our confirm button color, we would set that as hash 1F BC 99. That should work. Then for the show cancel, should it show a cancel button? So show cancel button would say true. And the cancel button color, we would use hex E46555F. Okay. And then the cancel button text, we would indicate that to be a no, or capital uppercase. And then let's just see if, let's go through again to see if everything is okay. So there's a title, there's a text, there's a type, then allow escape key, confirm button color, show cancel button color, then a cancel button text. So the values for the title here, we would say Cash Advance Requisition. Okay. And for the text, almost the same thing that we did here. Are you sure you want to? So we just take the same thing that we are used for our confirm earlier. Copy that, and that is what we'll put here. For the type, it would be warning. And yes, that is set. So after we set that array of parameters, the next thing we need to do is call the then. So after, when the user clicks yes or okay, what should now happen? So we call the then method. And in here, for the then method, there are a couple of things we are going to set. First, let us create, sorry, I hope I'm typing the right thing. Okay. Within these brackets, we'll create a variable called user decision. Okay. Let's see, are we doing right? So call the variable user decision. Okay. So what should now happen? Okay. So here we will then create an if statement and say, if our user decision dot value, the value that is passed from the SWAL confirm dialog into the user decision variable. If it is true, okay, or yes, what should happen? So this is an if block. We'll do this. What should happen? It's quite simple. Like what we did earlier for our confirm, all we need to do is submit the form. So let's copy that and let's come down here and paste it. So that is when the value of user decision is true. So there needs to be an else component, an else block here as well. So if it's not true, what should happen? Return false. Okay, so this should work. Let's check if it works. Let's save our form, go back to where we were doing our testing, reload frame. So which means if the form loads and we're able to preview it or see it then there's no error so far in our JavaScript code modification that we've done. So let's click on this. The moment you do that, so you get this SweetAlert box. Says, are you sure you want to submit this form? If you click on no, then nothing happens. But if you click on yes, then you are able to proceed to the next task. Okay, so that concludes everything that we are to do for on our initiation form. So what we now need to do is to copy this line of code out. We're going to use it for our supervisor approval form. Let's paste it here. And then another piece of code we need to copy would be the SweetAlert stuff that we have created. So copy this other line of code. Let's copy it. And let's keep here first. Okay. So we can save this, we can save the initiation form, bye-bye to the initiation form. The next form we want to quickly modify would be the supervisor approval form. And again, the first thing we would do is before we add the code for the Dynaform links forward and backward, let's come here and add the swirl code we wrote. First of all, comment out this if the confirm dialog. Sorry. Let's comment that out. And now we can come right here and paste our swirl. We'll come back to it to modify it since this form uses both approve and the reject button. The next thing we now need to do is copy these three lines of code for our forward and backward links, and we'll paste. So, but I would save, but I will not save the form yet. Let's log in as audu.baco and then open the form. You know, we've not saved the changes we just made, and we can see this next link. Okay, and see the next link. So let's go back. Let's go back. We're having an error in the routing, and we need to, we will now need to save this form. And we go back. It's saying nothing. It's saying that the conditions do not evaluate to true. Okay. And why is that happening? So this is a very good use case to demonstrate why we need to hide. Let's see. Let's go back here. Open us. Let's comment out these two lines of code so that we experience what we saw just now again. Now, if the user clicks on next step, you see it says that our gateway, which is this gateway here, the conditions are no condition there is evaluating to true. And that is because our user is proceeding on this task without using the submit button or the reject button, the approve button or the reject button, to which we bound lines of code that update the hidden variable is approved. So if the user were to have clicked on this, sorry, let's not do this. We've not updated sorry about that. We've not updated our SweetAlert yet. So we need to hide these links. So that's why it's important for you to do that. So let's go to our supervisor approval form and uncomment these lines of code. So when we uncomment, sorry, undo, and then we save the form, reload frame. This is now gone. So the user is not able to move backward or forward without using the predetermined buttons that will be used for such movements. Okay, so since what we've copied here for our SweetAlert only deals with the submits, we need to modify this block of code so that it handles approve and reject. So if we come down here, we now need to have an if function here. Sorry, and yes, an if statement rather. So if and is basically what we want to do inside that on line 58 is what we've already done here in our confirm. So retyping that, we'll just copy all of that and then we'll come down and we paste it. So let's tab this inside so it's aligned. So in other words, if the user decision is a yes, an okay, or true, then it will check what is the action. What is the action? So what we'll then do is to change this to request so that it's either, are you sure you want to approve this request or are you sure you want to reject this request? Based, excuse me, on whatever button the user clicks on, then the is approved variable is updated accordingly. So let's save this now and reload. Sorry, let's reload frame. So let's type is approved. Okay, another thing, yes, before I type a comment, let's click on this. When we say okay, you see it moves forward to the finance officer task. But what of the rejects? If based on what we did before using our alerts, if we do this comes out. So how can we use SweetAlert for this? We'll go back to our JavaScript for the form. Remember here we used alerts, but instead of doing this now, the best thing for us to do is to use swal. So we call again our SweetAlert. So if we just call swal normally, let's save this. Sorry, let's just save the form, go back to where we are doing our test and reload frame. If we have not, sorry, if the user does not type in a comment and clicks on reject, you get something like this. Yeah, get something like this. But we could also make this better by, let's click on OK. Let's go back here and modify that line where we call the swal function. But this time around, let's give it a title. Let's say comments needed as the title for the alert. And the type will be info. So it's an information alert or an info alert, not an error or warning alert. It's an info alert. So we've given it a title. and we maintain the message, and that we define the type of alert or the class of alert. So let's save this, and we will reload frame. And when we try to do this, so you see, this is what you now get. Okay. So let's type approved, since we now need to move to finance disbursement task. And let's submit this. It goes to finance officer, and we are good to go. Now, for our finance officer, let's go to the admin. Let's check who are the members of our finance officer group. If we go there, we can see there is no user yet. There is no user yet. Okay. So we need to add a user to our finance group. So let's add users. We're adding Adeola Adeoye in addition to Isosa Edekin. So let's add these two. They are the finance officers. Okay. And let's go back. So we have 2 users now in our finance officers group. Okay. So which means when we come to where we are doing our testing, log out from the Aodubako account and log in as adeola.adeoye, and we type in the password. We should remember that we used the self-service assignment rule here, task assignment rule. So we should expect to see, again, if you go by the mail message that must have been sent, the mail notification that must have been sent, let's see, it's not come up yet, but let's continue. You see that the user needs to check the unassigned folder. Now, no email was sent because we had not added any person to the group. So there was no user to send an email to. Okay. But so let's go back here. So we see this case now, but there's no form for this yet. So we need to create the form for our finance disbursement task. So let's quickly do that. Quite easy. We'll create a new Dynaform and call it CAR Approval Finance. CAR, where CAR is the prefix or the acronym for Cash Advance Requisition. So Approval Finance. I will say the description will be Dynaform for the Cash Advance Requisition and Expense Retirement process to be used at the finance disbursement task. Okay. So let's save and open. As usual, the first thing we'll drag in is our form title. And for this, the ID will be form_title. And for the label, we'll put Cash Advance Requisition. And then we'll put add finance approval, or let's call it finance disbursement. Yeah, so finance disbursement. Let's correct this capital E here. Good. So we have that. Then the next thing we need to do is to drag in the subform for the common fields. So this is the common fields. So we have that there now. The next is the subform for the comment section, the comment log. We have that. Then we need a submit button. We need a submit button. So add that, and the ID will be submit_btn. We'll copy what is there, and it should also be here. And it will be the label. Let's call the label. For the label, let's use conclude disbursements. Yep. Okay. And we need the sub form for the approval sign off. So that's that. And when we preview this form, this is what we get. Okay. So we now need to add JavaScript to make this button the color green, and then hide the forward and backward links as well. So for us to do that, since we use the submit button, we can just go to our initiation form and just copy all the JavaScript code there, and then we can modify to taste. So copy, go back to our finance disbursement form, and then we can paste. So now let's begin to modify this as we go along. So we need the first 3 lines of code as usual. We would need the cleave. Do we need the cleave? No, we don't need the cleave because, yeah, I think we should need the cleave because we expect the finance officer. The finance is not all for all situations, the finance officer will approve the exact amount requested by the employee. There may be times where the finance officer may need to give a reduced amount. And that's why, of course, there's the field for amounts requested, and there's the field or text box for amount advanced. So, which means that we would need to, let's see, here that we have amount requested commas, we will need to now target the amount advanced commas. So we see this amount advanced commas. That's what we shall now target with that line of code. Okay. Let's paste this and let's review the code again. So we're not converting anything to words here. We're not converting anything to words here. So we don't need this one. So let's amount figures. So we still targeting the amount advanced commas. No, sorry, undo. Undo. Okay, yes, so we are targeting the amount advanced commas. Yes, that's correct. When we get the value, we'll then remove all the commas so that we get the amount figures. Then if it is numeric, what do? We don't need the amount words, so we remove that line of code. Then we output to the form. We don't need the amount words, so we remove this line of code. And what we are targeting is the amount advanced. So let's save this and get it from the form. This is the amount advanced ID. Copy it, go back to JavaScript, and we can do this now. Okay. So we've done that. The next thing we need to do is the document.ready. There are feeds. We need to apply. First, we need to apply the cleave 1000 separator function up here to the amount advanced commas field or text box. So we come down here and change this. Okay. Now the fields we need to enable for editing, if we go back to the form, would be the amount advanced commas. Yes, that is the field we need to allow for editing. Then there's no need for this reason because that's for the initiator. We remove that. Then there's no need to disable now because the amounts advanced commas and the date advanced, they are feeds for there are fields for the finance officer. So we remove these 3 lines of code. And then we don't have the acknowledgement label or the label acknowledgement element or control on our form. So we also remove this line of code. And lastly, we apply CSS to our button. So that is correct. Okay. Now the form submission, we can just remove this line of code that we commented out for this. So we just use our SweetAlert directly. Okay. And then for event handler on the form, I think we are good to go. So let's see if our JavaScript has no errors. We should be able to preview the form. So that's that. We are able to preview the form. As you can see, this field is open for the for the um for the finance officer to edit and change the value of the amount he or she wants to advance to the employee. Okay, so everything looks good here. Let's now add the form to the task as a Dynaform step. Okay, we look for it. This is it. Add it here. And as usual, we need the trigger to add comments before routing, and we need to update approval signups after routing. Is there any other step we need to determine here? So let's see. We will need to preset the amount advanced. Now, let me explain that. When the finance officer gets to this form, it should not be the one typing a value here. There should be a preset value here, which will equal to the amount requested by the employee. And also the date advanced should be the current date or the dates on which the finance officer opens or claims the case to treat it. Okay, so that means we need to create a trigger, and for the purpose of this demo, we'll call that trigger preset the amount advanced. So trigger for the cash advance requisition and expense retirement process to preset the fields used at the finance disbursement task. So that should be sufficient for us. Okay. So we come back to the task, and we will not add it. Let's add it. It should happen before the Dynaform presets. But as you can see, it's still empty. There's no PHP logic here. Okay, so we are logged in on the browser where we are doing our testing as Adeola Adeoye, and we can see in her unassigned folder there is this. So she needs to claim this. When she claims the case, this opens, and you can see this is empty, and this date field is not filled at all. So that's where we need our trigger code, and we'll do something like this. We'll say amount or the commas, the amount advanced commas field is what we're interested in. And we need to set this equal to the amount requested commas. That's it. We need to set it. But again, it means that every time, even when the finance officer had already opened and placed a value there, If it opens again, it's going to be reset. The value will reset back to the amount requested commas. To avoid that, we should only do this preset if, so preset the amount advanced value only once. And how do we do that? We say if the amount advanced commas, let's paste it, if it is equal to nothing, then, or another way to do this would be if it is empty. If it is empty, it's another way to address it. So what should happen? If it is empty, then it should do this. Let's cut that and put that here. Sorry. Yeah, that settles that. But we would always want the date advanced field to be the date the finance officer submits the form. So if the finance officer opens it on the 11th but does not submit it, when he opens it again on the 15th, the date value should change to 15th. So that's why we'll just add this other one, set the date advanced and for date advanced, we'll set it equal to get current. We call the ProcessMaker function get current dates. So that should work. We save this now. When we go back to where we are testing and we reload frame, we get this value, but this is not working. So let's see, where have we gone wrong? Let's see what is happening. Go back to this. We said amount advanced commas should be equal to amount requested commas. We said if it is empty. Okay, I think what is wrong is this. Let's use if it is equal. If it's equal to this, I think this should work. Let's save. Let's open that again. Let's reload this again. Still does not work. So let's die and dump to see what the issue is. We done it typographical. Oh, I see it now. I see it. Sorry. We can go back to how it was before. I've seen the issue. We did not use our art here. Simple mistake and cause a lot of problems. So if it is empty, so that's what we missed. We forgot to add the art prefix. So I think that should solve the problem now. Load frame, correct. So you see that it presets with this value here. It presets with this value here. Okay. So let's assume for this particular purpose, even let's even see if the user, remember we added a cleave, they use the cleave library here. So even if the finance officer wants to make this 40,000, as he's typing to, you can see that the 1,000 separator comma appears there. Okay. But for this particular case, let's assume that the finance officer disburses the exact amount. Okay. So we see that this works now. So the actual float amounts without the commas are showing well. So which means we can hide these two fields now. We no longer need them on the form. So let's go to our common form, common fields form. We said we can now hide this this is the amount advanced, can delete it and instead use a hidden variable now and select amount advanced. And the same thing happens to the amount requested. We can remove the text box control and use a hidden variable now. Since our JavaScript, we've been able to prove that our JavaScript works for the core 1000 separator or feature that we've done. So amount requested, and we can save this. Now, when we go back to our form and we reload frame, those two fields are gone. Okay. So this is how it's supposed to look. And when we put this buzz here, when we click, there's something we need to do here when we click. Let's go back again to, sorry about that. Let's go back again to our finance. We want to change the message that shows up here. So instead of passing in submit, we'll pass in the name of the employee, something like that. Okay. So here we have Cash Advance Requisition, and instead of saying, are you sure you want to action this form, we would say, since this is a disbursement form, we would use, are you sure you have disbursed the funds, the funds to then here we're going to use name, and that's the name we are going to pass into the function. And here we just remove this. So it's something like, have you disbursed the funds to then the employee name? So how do we get the employee name? That's what we just need to pass in to this line of code here. So instead of passing in submit, instead we'll pass in the employee name. So how do we get that from the control? Let's target.get value. So this is what we want. And in here, we will now do employee name. I hope we spelled that correctly. Yeah. Employee name dot get value. So that's what we want to pass in. So we can save this, go back to where we are testing and reload frame. Okay. So when we reload frame and just type disbursed as a comment, when you click on this, it will ask you, are you sure you have disbursed the fields to Anu below? And if you click on OK, you see it forwards to the next task, employee reports expense. So when you click on that and then sign out here, let's check, did we get any email notification? You see this, disbursement for cash advance request. And when you open it, you see it's from Adeola Adeoye to Anu Bello, and it is your cash advance request has been approved by finance. When you are ready to retire expenses for this amount that you have been advanced. Sorry for the typographical errors there. Kindly continue case 19 from your inbox. So which means Anu Bello has this case in his inbox. Okay, so if we log in now as anu.bello, you see it's there. It's there. Okay. Now we would make some corrections to our email templates. There are lots of typographical errors there. So the first one is disapproved. Let's correct it. And then when you're ready to retire the expenses for the amounts you have been advanced, this is the other mistake. then kindly continue case this from your inbox. Thank you. Okay, so that's beautiful. And there's a case link there too, so that works. Let's check the order, the cash advance. Let's check where there are typographical errors here too. So this looks okay. Let's check the rejected. Your cash advance, this has been rejected. So this looks okay. And this for the supervisor, this also looks okay. So we've been able to complete all the forms for the cash advance leg of the process. We've tested and added the necessary triggers and the likes, and everything there looks very much okay. So with that, we've come to the end of this session. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope you've learned a lot. I look forward to having you for our next session. Goodbye for now.